Okay, here we go. The reason why I'm laughing is because this goes against pretty much all of my rules. All of my rules about, sharing things when they're ready and getting everything together and planned. And then I pressed record then and I was like, it asked me, do you want to do a test recording or do you want to record? And I was like, I'm going to record. No plan. Welcome to what I'm hoping is going to be a worthwhile endeavor, which is my vlog. The reason why I'm starting a vlog is because this year I'm working on my first album and I am aware that this is kind of an important year. I've been self-managing myself for 5 years now and have been slowly over the past 5 years post-COVID building my career. But along those 5 years, what I've also had to do as an independent artist is really think about and shed a lot of the old ideas that had held me back in the past. One of the ideas that I feel like the universe has been pushing me to shed over this last year is the idea of things, quote unquote, being ready and things, being, properly planned, quote unquote. Mainly because what I'm realizing is that when I just open up my doors, my heart, and just speak and say what I mean and share what I'm actually going through and where I'm actually at, it creates a much deeper connection with the people who mean the most to me in my life, whether that's my family or my partner or even my own fan base. Last year, a group of people in Nottingham got together and formed an official fan base called the Evergreens. Hey, Evergreens. I thought that it was just going to remain those 5 people, but it started to grow into a much bigger group, not only around my music, but around each other. And I was realizing all of the vulnerability and all the connection I was putting into my music, it was starting to happen in the audience and happen with the Evergreens. And it just means so much to me. But I also realized that I was preaching this idea of being vulnerable and being connected on stage because I find it very easy to be vulnerable on stage. I find it quite easy to open up. I feel really empowered, mainly because I don't know, it's just something that I feel confident doing. This pressing record and like no hair styling, I haven't shaved, I'm wearing my tracksuit. This I never do. I never do this because one of the old beliefs that I'd held on to is that like you should always look like your brand and you should always like, I don't know, quote unquote, look like an artist. I sat here just now pressing record on this, and anybody who's watching this can see that in the corner of the screen is a light switch. And about 2 weeks ago, I saw a video that said, unprofessional photos are ones that have light switches in them because, it just shows like bad composition. And I set up this camera, no word of a lie, and I went, my gosh, that light switch, I probably can't record in here. And I'm laughing because I'm like, mate, like, I cannot tell you how many times in my career and how many times in my life I do that. I'll look at the thing that to me is like this glaringly obvious flaw and be like, that's not ready. And so I'm doing this vlog to not only share the process of making my first album and putting together my next tour, which is the biggest, most ambitious thing I've ever done, but also to share the process and the behind the scenes and the actual emotion that goes into putting something like this together. I really don't know if this is going to be worth watching. I don't know if anybody will watch it. I'm kind of not doing it to get loads of people to watch it. I'm mainly doing it so that I have some documentation. This is the third tour that I'll be putting together, and I've never really documented the process because I've always just been in the source of making it. But I really want to remember this. I feel that it's going to be important to have documented this. So that's one thing. But the other reason is to get me to be more radically honest in this environment, not just on stage. And I'm also doing this thing where I'm trying to explain myself less, which is a lot harder to do as the eldest child, as like a Capricorn, as like whatever neuroses or thing that I could justify being a control freak, but I think I care quite a lot about being understood. I think my fear sometimes is that I'm going to be greatly misunderstood, that people are going to interpret my actions negatively or like I've got some kind of ulterior motive. And I think in the past, I've used that as a justification to just not say or do anything publicly and just keep it amongst my friends and trusted people. But when I was on the ITM tour, which was at the end of last year, I don't know, something clicked for me where I realized that the amount of connection that is available feels directly in proportion to the amount of vulnerability and open-heartedness and wholeheartedness you're willing to show. So I guess this is it. I don't know what I'm going to call this podcast, vlog. I don't know how often I'm going to do it. I'm not even 100% sure I'm going to know when an episode is finished. I think I'm just going to start here with what I have, because I feel like it will get better and I will get better the more I do it. And I'm just going to have to do it, and I'm just going to have to share it with you. So if you're joining for the very first time, if you're seeing this and you've no idea who I am, or maybe you've had my back and been supporting the music since like I first began in like 2012 or before then, welcome to whatever this is. And yeah, I can't wait to share with you. And I feel like what I wanted to say to start this off is just like give you an insight into where I'm at right now as an artist. I've had 2 managers in my career. I started in 2012 officially as a professional artist, or semi-professional in 2012. And in 2020, just after lockdown began, I went fully independent. At that point, I had actually started recording what I thought was going to be my first album, but that process actually had led to an album. It just wasn't right, I think is the fair thing to say. It just wasn't right, and it hadn't worked out, and that situation hadn't worked out. And I really, really thought that it would. I really thought that it would. Everybody involved, I think, thought that it was going to be something, but it wasn't in the way that I thought. But what I was left with was the truth of the matter, which was that I had followed all of the rules and the storyline that I thought a good artist was supposed to do. And even when red flags had come up that said, it's time, this isn't working out, this situation's not right, or whatever, I ignored it because I thought, well, I'm on the yellow brick road, like I'm on the fairy tale road. So I've got to find a way to just stay the course. It became, it was like red flags and alarm bells just going, nah, mate. And so over the course of 2020, I went about kind of changing it. And then I went independent. But I remember there being a distinct choice to make, which was you're either going to quit, you can stop. There is no shame in stopping. You've done everything that you can. You've put all your effort in. You could end it right now. You could just be like, cool, I'm going to go do one of the many other things that I do well. I could go and teach. I could go and be a full-time MD. I could go do all this stuff. But the idea of that broke my heart more than any of the heartbreaking things that had happened over the year in the build up to it, which led me to the other option, which was to manage myself and build something new, or build something for myself in my own way. And over the years that followed, and I'm sure this will come up maybe in other episodes, but I basically decided that what I was going to do is just begin from where I was with what I had. A lot of artists at my level and my background have probably been signed, or they've been managed, or both. They've had booking agents. They might have even had big record deals or huge tours. They might have been massive. And when that changes, or when they ultimately leave that situation, or if the situation leaves them, like if they get dropped or shelved or whatever, you are left as an artist, even in the best case scenarios, ultimately having to do things in a smaller way than you did them before, or do them in a much more, in a more DIY way than perhaps when you had a team or when you had other people on board. And your immediate thought process is, oh, well, then what I'm doing is not proper, or what I'm doing is not as valuable, or, it's less likely going to lead to the success that I want to see. And although I definitely had that belief, I think that what happened ultimately is that it allowed me slowly to go, actually, I'm in completely uncharted territory. There are no rules. Like, people don't really do this thing that I'm doing. People actively went out of their way to tell me that I couldn't do the thing that I've now done. Yeah. Anyway, why am I telling you all that? I'm telling you all that to say this. I'm here, baby. Let's do it. But yes, this is whatever this is. I'm sure I'll come up with a name for it or whatever. But for now, I'm just going to call it the vlog. This is making a tour, making an album. And so I'm going to tell you about this last week. It was my birthday last Saturday. And what I like to do every year on my birthday is do something musical. Plan to go down to London and work with Cassell the Beatmaker and Eric Apule on the album, and also to swing by Tom Pendergrass, who is the producer who I wrote Sleeping on My Own with, on the way down, because I'm also working on a few tracks for the album with him. And the other thing to say, am I going to say this? Yeah. The other thing to say is that a few weeks ago, my granddad passed away. My granddad Bob, who I am named after, Robert, he passed away, and just a lot of that emotion and connectedness was hanging around, has been sort of like going to his funeral. He'd been ill for a long time. He'd had dementia for a long time. Going to his funeral, for anyone who's had a family member with dementia, sorry about that. It's awful. But they'll tell you probably what I'm about to say, which is that there is a relief, sadly, that comes with their funeral, because you realize that collectively as a family, whether you've been speaking to each other lots or not, you've been collectively holding your breath. And when you finally exhale, all of that, not just grief, all of the love, all of the memory, all of the everything that you've been like holding, you just let it go, and it does what it does. And for me, I think what that meant is that it shifted something in me around this being open, sharing. I think I'm just realizing that my family on that side, which, you know, everyone, they're not super connected. Everyone kind of does their own thing. Everyone's in their own world. There's no beef or anything, just everyone's in their own universe. And then we all came together and we realized immediately how wonderful it was to be together. That's what it felt like to me. And how easy it was to be together. Just as easy as it is to justify, oh, well, you know, I haven't caught with him for a while. It'd probably be a bit awkward to message him now. I'll just catch him at the next. Do you know what I mean? It was like a cleanser, and it kind of said to me, you better make some choices. You better make some choices around the kind of person you want to be, and the kind of availability you want to have, and the kind of emotion that you want to experience in your life, and people you want to experience those life events with. Because if you're kind of passive and you just float through and see how it goes, you're going to miss out on a lot of love, basically. And so I guess when I came into this week to record, I was coming out of having spent the Saturday before, the 5th or 6th or the 3rd, with my grandma and that side of my family for the first time since the funeral before Christmas. I met my uncle's partner's children, who were the same age as me, for the first time. And I don't know, something happened. Something happened in me, in all of us, I think. We just had such a nice day. It was such a nice day. And I think all of the things that come up in family and friendships, where you go, you come up with explanations and excuses for why getting together is so hard, and actually it's like, do you want to get together or not? Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? If you want to get together, make it happen. Anyway, I say all of that to say this. I went in, we had such a beautiful day on that Saturday. And the first person I was seeing after that outside of my household was Tom, to work on a song that I have been co-writing with a great songwriter friend of mine called Riley Wilson, who's based over in the States. And this song, which is called Don't Look Down, we started writing during lockdown in 2020. I've always loved the song, but we never really had done anything with it, and we hadn't finished it. And on the Sunday night, me and Riley had had a bit of a Zoom and finished writing it. And so I took it into Tom on the Tuesday and played it to him. And really that song it's about hope, but it's also about your dreams. It's about going after what you really want and being brave. I'm also reading a lot of Brené Brown at the moment, which her whole thing is about shame and the importance of vulnerability. And so I went into this session with Dr. Brené Brown's words ringing in my head about, if you want connection, you're going to have to be a bit more vulnerable. You're going to have to be a bit more open. That doesn't mean overshare with people you don't really know. It is like, it's a trust thing. It's a trust thing. It's like, you know, you build trust, and I trust Tom so much. I love him so much. I've been with him a long time creatively. I just started singing this song. I gave him the guitar part and he did his thing. And I just did 2 takes just for the demo. And if anyone's ever demoed before or wants to know how demoing works, or the way I do it anyway, is that we'll arrange the song on an instrument, normally the guitar or the piano, and we'll just get a structure to the song. It'll be like, cool, this is the verse, and these are the chords for the verse. And in this case, me and Riley on Zoom had worked out, like, these are the chords, I think, and this is the structure, this is the melody. So I was coming in having already sort of like structured the song. And the demo is just to get a take of the vocal, beginning, middle, and end, and the instrumentation arrangement down, so that from there the producer can build the track and we can work together on building the tracks. And so Tom recorded it in on his acoustic, and I sat there in his attic, which is where he's put his studio temporarily while he's having his proper studio refitted. And I closed my eyes and I sang the whole thing. And I could feel when I was singing it that I was like, it was the first time after my granddad had passed away that I was singing. And it felt like that. It felt like all of the emotion that had been sitting under it, the sort of thinking that I do at this time of year. I think a lot of us do at this time of year about what's working for us, what are we keeping, what are we letting go of, what are we moving forward with, how do we want to evolve as a person. All of that, it was sitting right on my chest. And then Tom pressed record on this song, and that was like, I just remember finishing doing the take, opening my eyes, and Tom, who is always so chill, was like, oh, no, it was quite good. I was like, yeah, he goes, do you want to do another one? Oh, my days. And I was like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I did a second one. And he was like, cool, leave it with me. And this is where I also need to say that you put a lot of trust in a producer, because I was singing like the rent was due, okay, to an acoustic guitar, right? And in the belief that what Tom was going to do is like build this epic production around what I was singing, which he did. But I was like, he could have trolled me big time and just left it as the acoustic guitar and me singing the house down boots, just from 0 to 1,000,000 miles an hour. But he didn't do me dirty. He's put a demo together that sounds so amazing. It's like, and yeah, he sent me the demo a few days later. And I had a really emotional day on the Saturday of my actual birthday, because basically I woke up in the morning and my partner was not very well and we had to go to a walk-in center. So we did that. I saw my family in the afternoon, but he was on my mind because he was ill and at home. And you know what it's like. It's like people you love are ill and you've got to kind of, you know, figure it out. And he was cool. He was like, I'm cool. But it was just on my mind. And, you know, it was my birthday and I was 36. So I was also going, oh my gosh, you know, I'm 36. Like 10 years ago, I was 26, 26 is technically supposed to be your music industry expiration date. That's what we were always taught. So I was like, I'm 10 years past the expiration, but I feel good. Like I feel good about what I'm doing. But yeah, wow, you know, time flies. And then Tom sent me this demo and he was like, it's early days. You know, I've just done a bit of extra guitar and done some like production elements, but I've kept it really stripped. And I pressed play on it, and imagine it's like I'm in my bedroom. I was getting changed into my pajamas, and I saw the message come through. I put my headphones in. My partner's downstairs, like laid up on the sofa. I'm looking out of the window of our bedroom across like the forest that's behind our house and trees and the lamps on the main road that goes through the woodland. This song is like, it just hit me. I was like rendered senseless. I was just looking out of the window like, what? And yeah, the I can't wait for you to hear it, but the chorus line goes, standing up against the edges, tempted. These demons try to talk me down close to heaven. Don't tell me that it won't work out. I won't get no sleep thinking about this dream. Oh, it's never on now. Don't look down. Um, yeah, it's like it's one of those songs that it just brings up so many images in my head when I sing it. I can think of so many times where you're stood in front of what feels like a sheer drop. Like, you know, there's no subtle way to fail at this. If this goes wrong, like I'm falling out of the sky into the ocean big time. Icarus straight down. But you also know that there's no other way to get to where you want to go. You're gonna have to do it. I think at the start of the year, it was just a huge thing to start with. So yeah, I'm gonna end there because that feels like a great setup to what I think is coming. But I guess the lesson from this song which is currently called Don't Look Down, is about bravery. It's about all the excuses that we use to justify taking just a little bit more time. I think what I'm realizing and what a funeral will do to you is realize that time is not, it's one of the few things in your life that it's really not up to you. You're not in control of time, and you're not in control of what other people do or what happens, but you are in control of how you show up in the world. And for me, I think this is a part of me taking control of showing up and letting myself be more open-hearted without having to explain why or who or what I am. In the hopes that when I look back, when we launch this album and when we do this tour, that I'll be able to see how my mentality and my approach related to what we did and how we worked and what worked. And if you want to, you know, share your own encouragement, it would be welcome. And if you wanted to share your own lessons and your own hopes and your own dreams, I would welcome it. Seriously, big time. It's nice. It's nice when you are reminded that you are surrounded by people just like you who are trying to be as brave as possible with their lives in their own way. I think that's the end. Thank you for listening and watching this if you watched it, or streaming it if you listened to it. And catch you next time. Have a great time until then. Bye.